Welcome to Ditch Auto. My name is Jared Hill, and I wanted to show and share with you about the Sony a5100. Now, this is a compact mirrorless camera that is a crop sensor camera. Sony has made leaps and bounds over the past few years with the mirrorless platform, and I believe they just truly have it mastered. I've switched completely from Canon. This time last year I was shooting Canon, had Canon 5D Mark III, a whole slew of lenses, a couple of 6Ds, a 70D, or maybe a 60D at the time. Lots of Canon equipment, and then I came across trying out Sony's mirrorless platform and just fell in love. Now, I had played with this camera before at Best Buy. I went in and, you know, I'd heard about how fast you could shoot photos with this, how fast the shutter is and everything, taking continuous pictures, and I was really curious to try it, but I'm not going to jump into a new platform. However, after kind of switching to Sony and deciding to switch to Sony over the last several months and kind of fully making that transition about a month ago, I decided that I needed a smaller camera, something more compact than the full frame mirrorless cameras like the Sony a7S and the a7 II. So I went ahead and picked up one of these a5100s. I got just the body only. I mean, you can't go wrong on the price. It's like $450. $450 for something that's going to take as amazing photos as this is just a small price. I have had cameras in the past from Canon, like Canon's EOS M that came out that was kind of a huge disappointment in the realm of mirrorless, and then I had the Canon G1X, which was a fantastic camera, but it was not an interchangeable lens camera, and so it had its limitations as well. This being my first crop sensor Sony camera, I thought to myself, well, what's it going to be like in high ISO situations? If I'm at home trying to use this camera to take pictures of my kids, how is it going to perform unless I'm outside where the lighting is great? I'm used to small $400, $500 cameras not performing that well unless the lighting situations are perfect. Now, this camera, because it is an interchangeable lens camera with the mirrorless platform, I can put any of my Sony lenses on it. And now that I've kind of switched over to Sony completely, I have a lot more lenses to choose from. Now, the mirrorless crop sensor platform, or I believe they call it the NEX platform, for the NEX range of Sony cameras, there are a lot of lens options available. There are not as many lens options available for the Sony full-frame mirrorless cameras, but they're working on it. So, so most of my lenses are full-frame lenses, and I'm actually using them on this crop sensor camera, which is not a problem. It still works just fine. No problems at all, no issues. So one of the things that I really like about this camera is just how compact it is. It is tiny. It is extremely tiny. If you take this lens off of it, the camera is just so small. I mean, it could be smaller. I mean, I don't even see how it could be smaller without making it impossible to hold. Now, I like having this strap on it from Peak Designs because I could put this strap around my hand and then hold the camera, and because it's so small, if it slips out of my hand, I don't have to worry about it. I actually did a review of this wrist strap, and I'll put the link below this video so that you could check out the review of this strap. So this camera here has a built-in flash, though I don't use it very often because it is a little bit harsh as a flash. It pops up like so. It's actually just really trick looking. I mean, I love it. It's reminiscent of like a robot movie or something like that. And so in situations where you need the flash, it actually does a good job for a pop-up flash. Pop-up flash on most cameras is horrible. It gives, you know, horrible red eye. There's always problems with using the pop-up flash, and this one's not too bad. And because of the way that it works, I could actually point it at the ceiling. Now, I don't think that it's really intended to be used this way, but I could bounce flash off the ceiling like this. And so I find myself, when I need to use the flash, I'll bounce the flash. I'll pull it up a little bit so it's shooting the light up at the ceiling and maybe up and over my subject. and that definitely helps. Or even maybe pointing it at the ceiling so it bounces at the ceiling and then down onto my subject, which definitely takes away from the red eye and the harsh light that you get from shooting at the same plane that your lens is at. That's one of the problems that you get with on-camera flash, is that that light is coming in and hitting them flat at the same angle that the lens is hitting them. So definitely a cool feature that you can do that, though I don't think it's maybe it is designed to do that, I don't really know, but that's how I've been using it. So you also have an articulating viewfinder on the back that flips all the way up. It's not like some of the other Sony cameras where it can also flip down. This one only flips up, which is okay. If I'm shooting down low, I can go down low and see in my viewfinder just fine. It doesn't have an electronic viewfinder that you can look through with your eye like with an eyepiece. It's simply just the screen and that's it, which is okay. It's a small camera, there isn't much room for stuff like that. The buttons on the back are fairly easy to get to. Once you figure out the Sony system, the menu buttons on the back are pretty much the same across all cameras. My A7 II, my A7S, you know, to adjust the ISO, exactly the same. To change drive modes from single shooting to continuous high shooting or self-timer, same options. There aren't any custom buttons on this camera like there are on some of those other ones, but that's okay. You can go into the menu for that. This camera has a menu that's pretty simple to use, but it has a graphical interface that you land on before you actually get into the menu. I believe they probably do this just to make it a little bit easier for you to find the section in the menu that you're meaning to go into. But for me, it's just one extra step to get to the menu where I want to go. But nonetheless, it's not too bad. I believe that I could actually turn that feature off if I wanted to, but I haven't played around with the menu a whole lot aside from just using basic features that I use on all of my cameras. So the shutter button is pretty comfortably placed. It would be nice if it was forward a little bit more, but it's not too bad. When you're taking pictures, you know, in portrait or landscape, it's fairly easy to reach. And then it also has a zoom feature. Now, if you're shooting JPEGs only, which means you're not shooting in camera raw, even if you have a lens that doesn't have zoom, like this is a 55mm lens, I can zoom digitally a little bit. And that's kind of neat. Obviously, you're not going to want to do that too much because digital zoom is not as good as optical zoom. So you will lose a little bit of clarity by doing that digital zoom. But if it comes down to not getting the shot at all, digital zoom is better than no zoom at all. And having this option on here is actually kind of neat. But if you're shooting in RAW or RAW plus JPEG, it doesn't work. You have to be shooting in JPEG only mode. And so it being that fail-safe only works if you're only shooting in JPEG mode. Shooting videos with this camera is a lot of fun as well. The movie button is pretty easy to get to. It's just a little bit further back than the shutter. Just tap the button and it starts recording instantly. You don't have to switch modes or anything else. Just hit the movie button and it starts recording. Low light, this camera isn't too bad. Obviously, it leaves much to be desired in low light compared to the A7S or even the A7 II for that matter, but it does a pretty darn good job in low light. When I'm at home taking pictures of my kids in the evening, you know, it's dark outside already and all I have is in-room lighting, the camera does pretty darn good. I have not been upset with the quality of the image that I've been able to get out of this camera. Now, one of the things that this camera is touted for is its ability to take continuous shots really fast. When you are in that mode, so I'll go ahead and go into continuous high shooting, and just so that it isn't searching for focus, I'm gonna go ahead and put this camera in manual focus, and you hold down the shutter, it's shooting very fast, and that's really good for me when I've got 3 little kids at home that are running around and I'm trying to get photos of them. I'm just hold down that shutter and just let it rip and it grabs a whole bunch of photos, and I just really love that feature. The continuous autofocus is a little it searches a bit when you're trying to use autofocus continuously. It does really well when you do single point autofocus, which, you know, pre-focus by holding down your shutter. It does pretty good. It doesn't search too long unless you're in really low light situations. It grabs focus pretty quick. Continuous focus, a little bit of a hesitation, but for a $450 camera, it's actually fantastic, and I cannot complain about it at all. So This camera is a 24.3 megapixel image that it produces, which is a pretty good size photo by any standards. One of the features that I love about it is NFC with Wi-Fi. I have both Android and iPhone devices, and with the Android, I simply go into the mode and choose a photo and then tap my phone to the side of the camera. It automatically connects and transfers that photo. With an iPhone, all I have to do is launch the Sony Play Memories app on my iPhone and then make sure I'm connected to the Wi-Fi network that my camera is emitting. And then I could transfer photos right to my phone, share them to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, however I want to do that, and it really only takes seconds. It's one of the beautiful features that won me over to shooting Sony is this NFC and Wi-Fi, which they have not only on this camera, but the full frame mirrorless cameras that I'm using as well. So there are many other good features of this camera. Sometimes I run into issues with how small it is. If I want to mount it on a tripod, I have to have a lens that is small like this. Some of the other lenses are bigger and actually hang down lower. So I actually have to space my camera out a little bit before putting a tripod plate on it. With this camera, you would want a really small tripod plate, but most of my tripods are for shooting video, so the tripod plate is a little bit larger and becomes kind of a pain in the butt to mount. Nonetheless, it's a fantastic camera. It does take SD cards, as well as the same little batteries that my other cameras take, so I really enjoy this. It also has clean HDMI out, which is really cool for shooting video. It means that I could plug an HDMI cable into the side of this and use one of my digital recorders that I have and get really high quality video out of the side of the camera. With this type of camera, with most of these Sony cameras, you can also plug in a micro USB charger that you would normally use to charge your phone right into the side of the camera and charge the battery. That's another really cool feature of this camera. So if you're considering getting something that is more compact, maybe you already have a bigger camera, maybe you don't. Maybe you're looking to jump into the mirrorless platform. This is a fantastic point of entry. This camera is amazing for what it is, for its size, and for its cost. I think it is well worth it. I have not tried this camera with the kit lens option that you can buy, so I have no real feedback on that other than the fact that most kit lenses aren't that great, and that kit lens does have a built-in optical zoom, which I don't necessarily think is a fantastic idea. You're going to lose a little bit of quality there, as opposed to using lenses like this Sony Zeiss lens, 55 millimeter, or even some of the other prime lenses that I've purchased for the Sony platform. So what I recommend doing, if you are really looking for the best option, is to get this camera as a body only and then buy a little bit better of a lens for it than what would come in the kit. Sony's lenses are much cheaper than other platforms like Canon and Nikon, so you can get a lot more for your money when it comes to lenses. So definitely check out your options. If you have any questions about that, ask them in the comments below this video. If you have this camera and you want to share your experiences with it, I'd love to hear that as well. Leave that in the comments below the video. There's also links to this camera in the comments below, or in the description below the video, so that you can check out this camera on Amazon, B&H Photo, and you can also read the reviews of other people there as well. So definitely make sure to do that, and we'll see you next time on Ditch Auto.